agree. They never tell me that they proud of me. Now they want to sit around with me. I'm still setting healthy boundaries. I don't even trust family. A lot of people look down on me. You ain't got a fake smile for me. I'm still setting healthy boundaries.
What's good, family? This is Dr. James, and this is Dr. James Spitting Game, where we talk parenting, education, sports, and juvenile justice. Up to this point, we've talked about parents, schools, and systems. Today is about what happens when all of that fails. When schools miss the child, when families are overwhelmed, when discipline becomes punishment, and the streets start raising the kid. Today, we're talking about violence prevention and the adults who step in when the damage is already in motion. My guest today is someone who played a critical role in my professional development. Ms. Bernita Walker is a violence prevention practitioner and community leader, and she was a mentor and supervisor to me during my internship at Project Peacemakers while I was completing my bachelor's degree. That experience was one of the first times I saw what violence prevention really looks like. Not in theory, not in textbooks, but in real neighborhoods with real families. Ms. Bernita helped shape how I understand community intervention, accountability, and the limits of systems that respond too late. Ms. Bernita, welcome to Dr. James Spitting Game. Well, hello, Miss Bernita. How are you?
I am doing fine, Dr. James, and yourself?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
It's great to
So,
see you.
so I just wanted to start with, where did you grow up?
I grew up in the same house I live in right now in Los Angeles, California, near USC. I can always say that. I live in walking distance of USC, but I'm on the east side.
Okay, the east side. I was from the west side, Inglewood.
Okay.
So, what experiences led you into this field?
Life experiences. At 14, I was exposed to a violent relationship where I was coerced, that's a big word now, coerced into just allowing that individual to not take over my life, but to conduct it in as far as who I was associated with, where I went kind of type of thing. And I was 14, he was 15. And the thing that really set it for me was when he put a knife to my throat and a gun to my head one Sunday afternoon in Houston, Texas, in the West End.
Okay,
And I promised myself if I get out of that relationship, I would never allow that to happen to me again.
no, that's right.
Hmm.
So, when did you realize violence was systemic and not just individualized behavior?
Not really until around um, the late 70s, because I kept that promise to myself. I was never around anyone that was violent toward me or allowed them to uh, try to possess me and not going where I wanted to go, doing what I wanted to do, because I was very active in school. So I saw that, as I said, early 70s, the late 70s, because at that time, it's about 13 years later, I was in a relationship with an adult um, who was very controlling. And then from there, after I got out of that relationship, some friends of mine and myself, five of us, we saw a need to address the issue for women in the Los Angeles area. And we started Genesee Center, which is one of the oldest Black agencies that worked on domestic violence in South Central Los Angeles.
Okay. Now, when we talk violence prevention,
Mhm.
what does the work actually look like on a day-to-day basis?
Talking to everybody that you can, just to share the knowledge that you have or the lived experience that you have. A lot of victims don't understand that that coercive control, that possession, that isolation, all of those things, they don't understand that to be domestic violence. They think it is because that person cares for them so much, and that's not the truth.
Okay. So, any other misconceptions about violence prevention?
That it can't be stopped, that it can't be changed. It can if we learn how to um, go into a relationship with the proper set of tools.
Okay. Um, what do you consider some of those basic tools to be?
Well, one of the basic ones is that when we have conversations with someone that is trying to, as we say, hook in, okay, hook in with one, uh, listen to what they're saying, ask questions about what they're saying. What about their activities? What are they doing with their life? What is it that they want to do with their life? You know, those types of questions instead of just talking about, oh, I like that kind of movie and stuff like that. You gotta put more meat to it. You have to
Mm,
put more meat to it, more questions to it. Well, what's happening are you married? How many have you been married? Do you have children? Uh, what's that relationship like? There's a lot to go into getting into a relationship. It's just not something that you see somebody that looks good, smell good, sound good, feel good, and taste good. Those are all your senses. That's not about that relationship.
okay. And what types of things should we look for before violence occurs?
Well, first you want to look to make sure that you are compatible with that individual. You know, this might be approaching you about a relationship. What kind of compatibility do you have? Do you practice the same faith? Do you eat the same types of foods? Do you do this? Are you involved with exercising or working on your body? Do you drink heavily? What are the things that you like to do? Where do you like to go? If you don't have that type of compatibility, it's not going to work. Then that person that is the stronger individual, and it could be male or female, is the stronger individual, is going to reign in that relationship. And it's not going to be a relationship. It's going to be um well, I can't think of the word I want to use to call it, but it's more like a control situation. That'll work. A control situation. And that's not what you want in a relationship. You want to honor each other in the work that you do and the type of mindset you have. You want to have someone in your life that is, like as I said, compatible to you. It's a lot of things that goes into a good relationship, and most people don't know it because they haven't seen it.
So, when you said, do they practice the same faith? That so many things crossed my mind when you said that
Hmm.
because when we get into the parenting and whether it's different religions or just being parented a different way, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
a lot of us nowadays tend to try to be the parents that our parents were, and we don't realize in many ways we're not evolving when we only stick to that same type of parenting. Whether it's in the schools, whether it's in sports, but things change. Some things are definitely not allowed no more. And
Okay.
and we stuck in those old ways of how they parented us. But even going into the, what your religion, what your belief is, you have the LGBTQ these days. we don't know if our children are going to be one way or another. So even things like that are things that probably should be discussed early on when before what you say we hook
Hook
in,
up.
hook up,
Yeah. Hooking in. Yeah.
hooking up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It really does. It really needs to be discussed because if not, you could be a violent erupting situation right then and there. Okay. When you talked about um, compared to our parents, I'm old. Well, I'm older than you.
Older than
Uh,
me.
amen. And so my parents, my mother would spank me after she caught me because I'd run around the dining room table. And by the time I kept running around the dining room table, she was like, okay, that's all right. Never mind. I'll get you the next time because she was tired. I had wore her out. Um, in my daughter's life, I spanked her one time. No, I didn't spank her. I hit her one time. My grandson, I've never hit him. So that's the education that you learn on how to have better communications with your children by just going up making it better. You know, you didn't like to be spanked, so why would you think that your children would like to be spanked? Why not train your children to go another way? Why not train them with love instead of fear?
Right.
See, that's the whole thing, with love instead of fear, because that goes into that's all they knew. So that's all that they're going to do. And then you're upset about them doing that to your grandchildren. And they go
Mm,
like, "What you did it to me. So why can't I do it to them? I'm just doing what you did." But it's, as you said, the times have changed. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers that we use all the time. We didn't have all these different TV stations. We didn't have this. We had simple stuff. And it
right.
made it a lot easier. But it also gave us a lot of problems as well.
So before the violence occurs, anything else that any patterns, anything else that start happening before the violence?
Well, oh yeah, the violence is the last step. That's the tension. You have to go through hooking in, and then there's a tension phase, and then there is the violent phase. And then there's what they call after that, a lot of people call it the red rose phase. And some people start off with the red rose phase, but you got to hook in first. Okay. And that was really created by Dr. Lenore Walker when she was in Seattle, Washington. She's now in Florida, I understand. But it's still good information to be used. It's important to know who that person is, all about them. I remember a young lady that came to um, Genesee Center back in the day. I can't remember her name, but she came in because she was trying to get away from her husband. And she shared the story to us that she met his grandmother, and when she met his grandmother said, "Sonny, go to the store and get up this," and because I forgot to do that. And while Sonny was gone, she talked to the young lady and she says, "Baby, um, so you're in love with my grandson, huh?" She says, "Yes, ma'am." You know, so she said, "I see why you married him. I can understand that. But did he ever tell you about his past?" And she said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Oh," she said, "Did he tell you about him being in prison?" And she said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "What did she tell you about being in prison?" He said it was a case of mistaken identity and that they had caught him supposedly doing something to another person and they blamed him and it wasn't him, it was somebody else. She said, "Oh," the grandmother. Then she said, "Did he tell you that he was in jail, in prison for killing his girlfriend?" And the young lady said, "No, ma'am." She said, "Mm-hmm. You better watch that kind of thing."
Mm,
So that's what we were talking about, that coercion, getting in. saying things and connecting with them on a level that is um, a wooing level, but it's not, only just flip me off my feet. Oh my goodness, he said this. I like that, but never understanding what that meant.
That's deep.
Okay. It's listen, this issue of domestic violence and intimate partner violence is very deep. It doesn't begin once you meet somebody. It starts from conception. It starts from conception. Because when a child is made, if the parents aren't really in love with each other, that starts a whole bunch of confusion. Because somebody's not going to want the child one way or the other. And until that child is hearing all this negativity that is being uh, said by the parents and the fighting and all of that type of thing that they're going through, that child is feeling it. Because as the mother is carrying that child in her stomach, those same experiences that she's having, that baby is having it also. When we first opened up Genesee Center, we had a young lady who she was being held captive in the apartment building that the father of her child was managing. And he was living on the first floor with his wife, and she was living on the third floor with all of the windows nailed down so she couldn't escape. And she escaped because she went to the doctor with the baby for his checkup. And I had just spoken at the hospitals, Martin Luther King to be exact. I had just spoken at the hospital about the issues and what we were doing at Genesee Center. And the social worker there had heard me, and she immediately called the next day when that young lady came in. He was keeping her locked um, in this apartment on the second floor, and she couldn't go anywhere without him. But when they went to the doctor, he couldn't go in the back with her and the baby, so they snuck her out. Those are the things that we see on a regular basis. So we have to first learn who we are individually and like ourselves and make sure that we love ourselves more than we love anything except God.
So now you kind of take me into what we know is the generational trauma.
Uh-huh.
Um, they say violence is rarely the first trauma, it's often the last. Um, what are some other roles that can play into the trauma? What about does school play any roles into the trauma that's set?
Yes. Let me share this with you first. The last trauma usually for most individuals, it takes them any place where up to 7 times trying to get out of the relationship or leaving the relationships before they finally decide, I'm tired. I'm getting out of this. Okay?
7 times?
7 times. Because they keep trying to give that person an opportunity to do better. And the person, when they give them those red roses I was talking about, they'll tell them, you have to worry. I'm sorry. I just got upset about such and such and such. And it went down deep into me. And I didn't mean to do what I did. So you got to give me another chance. And they'll keep giving them chances up to basically 7 times. That's what it generally is.
Mm,
Okay. I only went through it 3 times. I didn't, and while I was going through it those 3 times, I was trying to figure a way out, not to stay in.
right.
Okay. All right. So going back to the children, the trauma, as I stated initially, starts when the child is conceived, especially if it's a relationship that the one of the parents doesn't want the child. So when the child is born, they're not born into a house of love, but to a house of confusion. And babies start learning from the time that they are come out. They start learning. You'd be surprised at some of the films that I see, some of the videos that I see on the YouTube where they're doing threads of babies and how they're responding to different things. And it's so cute, but it's real that that's how they are responding, that they're listening to what's being said because now they're in a different area of their life, a different space in their life, and they're learning because that's where they started from. Okay.
So,
Now you mentioned about the schools. All right. One of the issues that we find concerning the school system is that a number of the teachers also are going through uh, situations with their mates, with their children. And sometimes it's very difficult to separate one from the other. I was shared a couple of years ago, one of the ladies that runs an agency where she works with children, she was going into a school, and this teacher that was there was talking to a couple of boys there, and his language to them and his actions to them caused her to stop and say, "Sir, you are out of line talking to those boys that way. You're causing issues for them." Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier about how we were raised, however he was raised, he was doing that to these children that had other parents that did not do the things that he did to them.
right.
And it caused problems for those children and caused them to be kicked out of school. One of them was kicked out of school, but he was feeding off of what that teacher had fed them.
Hmm.
So any communications that you have with anybody can ignite those negative issues and cause problems to happen for that child. Then you have children who end up getting transferred from school to school to school because no one has taken the time to really want to work with them on what their issues are. So we have a lot of stuff going on. Parents in particular, there are parents who are not congenial when it comes to the teachers and vice versa. No, my child's going to do this, my child's going to do that. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done because of the fact that it was not attended to back then. So we're trying to catch up.
And when you say not attended to, is it fair to say that the trauma isn't attended to as well?
That's
And,
the main thing
and this can be the results of the untreated trauma.
because they don't understand that they're in trauma. I mean, how many times have adults heard um, other adults say they just crazy, they just mean about a child, oh, they just got bad genes in them, that type of understanding. And you go, no, there's something wrong with the child. Well, ain't nothing wrong with them. They just, that type of attitude.
Right.
If there is something wrong, if they're acting out on that on a regular basis, there's something wrong. Somebody has hurt them. And it needs to be taken, time needs to be taken with these children so that you can help them through it so that they can be better adults as well. And our classrooms are too full. I mean, it's just so many things. You know, our classrooms are overfull, and so the teachers can't give the kids the type of attention that they need, the type of attention that some of us older people were given when we were in school.
Hmm.
And it's affecting us. Everything is affecting us.
Yeah. So the last person I spoke to, we started kind of talking about what we learned in school and, throughout our degree programs, versus lived experience. And, many times you have professionals that may not have the lived experience. From your perspective, what are the biggest gaps between how violence prevention is talked about and how it actually has to be done?
Mm. Well, when you first started just now, when you were talking about that, I thought about social workers um, that work with children, like Department of Children and Family Services or Child Protective Services.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are employed, it appears to me, those who are employed for those particular agencies, they don't have the training that they need to do the work for those agencies. Because the first thing they want to do is separate the children from the parents. Just take them away from both parents. That's their call to safety. Find out what's going on. It's a deep dive into this. It's not just a surface situation that the parent is doing this or doing that. That parent that's being mean to the child or rough to the child may have been coerced into doing that by the other mate. You know, right now we've got several um, committees in the county of Los Angeles that are addressing these types of issues. Maltreatment for the different ethnicities, as well as um, learning how to the culture of different families, because we have cultures within cultures and within cultures. No, just because you have a certain color in your skin doesn't mean that your culture is the same as the other person's.
Right, right,
Okay. According to where you were raised and what was happening in certain areas. There's a lot of things that are contributed to having good relationships and bad relationships, for having um, healthy children, not just healthy physically, but healthy mentally. Okay. Because some parents are not healthy mentally. And that rolls off on the kids. So there's one of the things that I would like to see uh, as we go along is that they put health back into school systems, healthy relationships in those school systems, because we see young girls at 10 years old having boyfriends and things of that nature, and what's going on with them and how they're reacting to what is happening with that person. There was a film that was done uh, several years ago by a 16-year-old. And she there was a shooting, a killing, a young boy, one of the top athletes in a school in Texas. And he killed his girlfriend on the campus. And so she did a video about it. She did a training about it, actually, about how to stay in a healthy relationship. And it talked about that particular incident and how that relationship came about and how he was controlling the victim on a regular basis to the point that she just didn't know what to do. And even her girlfriends would tell her, you need, think about this, think about that. You see that he's not doing this for you and that for you. What about your parents? What are they saying? All of this. And she was with her, if I recall correctly, her family was just she and her mom. She didn't have a father in the house. And fathers play such a very important role in girls in particular. In particular. I mean, naturally, they ruin that role model for the boys, but daughters look at their fathers and how they're being treated by their fathers and how their fathers are treating their mothers to get the idea of how they should be treated. And if it's not a good treatment, then it's not going to be good results.
Mhm. I hear that a lot. Um, So, what mistakes do the well-meaning professionals often make?
Not meeting the clients where they are, because everybody is different because they've had different exposures, they've had different cultures, they've had different this, different that. So the professionals want them all to be at this level when they don't even know what that level is. And that's about the book learning is not very good because they're not listening to those with lived experience. And when I talked about the committees in the county, we have a lived experience committee because who better to tell what you go through than those that have gone through it and what the
Mhm.
possibilities are. Okay. So, uh, okay, I have to go back now. What was you say? What did you say?
Just the mistakes, like, and you answered it right on,
Right.
point, which is the mistakes that the professionals make, even though, they mean well, but they missing something.
Exactly.
The mistakes that they often make.
Right. And
And for me,
judges make mistakes because they don't know. They're only going by the papers they have in front of them, and the papers that they have in front of them about the case is not complete because everything is not in there. So it
yeah,
needs to be some time spent. Um, right now, one of the things that we're pushing for in the county of Los Angeles is that all of the DCFS workers go through another 40-hour training. In California, they have to go through 40 hours of domestic violence training before they can work with a domestic violence client. That's mandated statewide.
hmm,
Okay. But again, the different classes that are being taught don't cover everything that needs to be covered in that 40 hours. So it's just 40 hours is not enough. You have to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it because things change. I remember when I first started in the field in 1979, the only thing that we talked about was a man uh, violating a woman, a man beating on a woman, a man killing a woman. Well, we're way past that now. So we have to keep going to school. We have to keep learning that relationship, how it expands. I remember back in about 1982, when we had really just getting started with 1981, we were really getting started with Genesee Center. One of our friends, one of our associates, he ended up being killed by his wife. And we were shocked to find out that he had been abusive to her and beating on her because he wasn't that kind of person. With us, he was always lively and fun. He always had a smile on his face and so forth and so on. But some of the guys that were hanging around him, they knew that he was violent to his wife.
wow.
And she was blessed she was not held for the murder because of the fact that he was beating on her and he gave her a gun actually to protect herself when he wasn't there. He was a coach of baseball with the kid, yeah, and he gave her a gun to protect herself. And he came home one night and started beating on her again, and she got the gun and she protected herself.
Hmm. What happened with her?
She got off. It was a self-protection.
Hmm.
She protected herself. And so she did get off. She didn't do any time at all.
Okay, so once things are addressed and resources surface, what's missing in the current services?
Time, you know, they want to put a certain amount of time on every situation. You can't do that because every situation is different. And so it calls for different strategies. And it takes time when you have been constantly abused, lack of self-esteem, talked about all the time. Those things take time to build back up. There was a movie called Blink, and it was about a black family, and the husband would constantly belittle his wife, constantly. And his brother came home from being incarcerated, and he was staying with them for a while, and he could see how the woman's husband, his brother, was treating her. He even called the police on his brother because of how his brother was treating the wife. And so the husband put his brother out of the house because of what he had done, and it got him, the husband, arrested for what he did to his wife. He went through counseling, changed his ways, and he came back to the house. He treated her a lot better because he had learned to do better, learned how not to abuse her in the way that he had. But she had already been of the mindset that she was no good. She was harmful to him. She was not obedient to him, things of that nature. And because he's always would tell her, I'm going to teach you how to be better. I'm going to, that type of thing. And one night, after he got out of prison and came home, and she was ironing his shirt, and he liked his clothes to perfection. And she ironed a cat face. I don't know if you know what a cat face is. It's when you have the hot iron and you kind of it doesn't smooth out. It folds over. I can't really explain it, but it was called a cat face. And she did that, and when she held the shirt up, she said, "Oh, he's gonna be really mad." And he was saying, "You got my shirt ready?" And she was like, "Oh man, if I let him see it, he's gonna really get me." And she said, "Yes, I did, but I made a error in here. It's not quite the way you want." He said, "Don't worry about it. It's okay. Thank you so much." He didn't scream at her. He didn't belittle her. Okay. And as she gave him the shirt, she said, "You sure?" She said, "Yeah, it's fine. It's good. That's not that bad." She got in her mind that he didn't love her anymore
Mm,
because he wasn't screaming and hollering.
like he would normally did.
Okay. And so she went to the closet. She took out, he had a gun in the closet that was loaded. She got the gun, went to the bathroom, and she shot him in the head.
Wow.
So she needed help to come out of that situation that she had already formed in her mind with her husband. That's how deep this stuff is. It's not lightweight at all.
Right. Well, I thank you for coming on. But I have one last question.
Hmm.
If you could speak directly to one policymaker, one school administrator, and one overwhelmed parent, what does each of them need to understand?
That every person is different, even their children. Um, when you have more than one child, you can see the different personalities in those children. It's all about the exposure that they get and what they feel like's happening, especially if you have a number of children. One, the oldest one always ends up taking care of the younger ones and the young, that type of thing. So, we're all individuals. We have our own psychic, our own thing that we go through, our own understanding. So it takes time. It's not something that you see happening today and it's fixed on tomorrow. No. There's a study that was done out here in California called the ACEs study, Adverse Childhood Effects. And at the beginning of every one of our 40-hour classes and at the beginning of every client we bring into the program, they have to take that test. That gives them an insight on, wow, okay, now I see why I'm this way. Wow, I didn't remember. Now I remember that incident happening because we have to start at the beginning to work out of that into who the person really is. If not, they're going to have some failures along the way.
So it's funny because that's one of the main things that came out of my dissertation was individualized treatment. So, but
And
yeah,
right now, we have a lack of persons that are qualified because
right,
they got book learning,
right.
okay, but not dealing with the people honestly on the way that they should be dealt.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So the last thing you said is we have a lack of people that are qualified.
Definitely. Uh, we all want to get the how do we teach the subject to the student, but you need to work with the student in making sure that they're receptive of that. Um, Kids do better when it's something that they like. If you're trying to teach them something that they don't like, they're not going to respond good. So you have to take that into consideration. And again, as I said earlier, meet them where they are. Meet them where they are. Ask them. They have a mind. They know what they're, you get more response out of them, positive response, if they're doing something that they like to do or want to do or are curious about. Okay. We have a young boy that's at our my church. He's 14. He's studying engineering at USC. Cause
Wow,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So you want to meet them where they are. Find out what they want. Don't try to push what you want for them. Okay. Not even the parents. Don't push what you want for them. You want to
Support what
find out. That's it.
they
They
into.
need that support. They need that support. My parents never stopped me from doing whatever I wanted to do. I did the same with my daughter. She wanted to play tennis. I got her out there on the tennis court. Whatever she wanted to do, she did gymnastics. My grandson wanted to do the piano, whatever they wanted, to let them have that experience to see what it is that they can and really do want to do. When I was coming up, I wanted to be a professional dancer. I dance, but not a professional up on the stage because God had something else He wanted me to do,
Right, right.
and that's to work in this field and bring happiness to the families and growth to all of us. So it's important.
So I kind of I'm gonna just change things up, change, direction with this because we've, concluded what we needed to discuss. But in my introduction, I kind of talked about how I was able to learn from you early on, when I came down to do my internship there and whatnot. And I just want you to know when I worked for you back then, my heart was kind of broken when I completed that internship
Mhm.
because I felt there was so much that I can learn from you, and I just wanted
Mm,
to stay around.
mm,
And I don't know. Since then, I didn't got a master's and a doctorate, so that was a long time ago, and it
hmm
just feels so good to be back around talking to you, knowing that I'm gonna be working with you on some type of level coming up soon. And
I
I
tell
just
you,
wanted you to know I'm so happy and excited about
you don't
this.
have any idea how happy I am when I got that message from you when you showed me the picture of you being a doctor. I said, "Look it there!" I was so happy. I was so excited for you. You deserve every bit of it because I know that you put your heart in it. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for doing the work that you're doing. But that's because God brought you through, baby.
That's right.
He brought you through. He taught you everything that you needed to know then, and he's still teaching you
Yes, ma'am.
because he's opening up the doors for you to do even more work than what you're doing. I am just so proud of you. Thank you for being in my life.
Thanks for having me. And I look forward to meeting with you all on Wednesday. And I will be planning me a trip to come out there hopefully sooner than later. But I'll be out
Okay.
there.
Okay, I'll send you the connections and everything.
All right. Thank you, Miss Bernita. You have an awesome rest of your weekend.
And you too, baby. God bless you.
God bless.